The next time you pull out your phone to order some food, you might think you're just talking to a restaurant. But really, you're interacting with this invisible layer of technology that's making decisions you don't even see. Today, we're going to pull back the curtain and see what's really going on behind that screen. Just think about it for a second. That last order you placed. Maybe it was pizza on a Friday night or a quick salad delivered to your desk. The whole thing just feels so seamless, right? Almost like magic. But that magic is actually a massively complex system working its tail off in the background. So what was that invisible ingredient making sure your food showed up hot, fresh, and on time? Well, the answer, more and more, is artificial intelligence. And its role in your dinner is way bigger and, frankly, more personal than you probably imagine. So here's what we're going to get into today. First, we'll see how the giants of the industry use AI. Then, we'll check in on your local spot to see if they can get in on the action. After that, we'll dig into what we, the customers, actually want, tackle some of the tough ethical questions, and finally, get a little taste of what the future holds. Okay, let's start with the big players. I'm talking about companies like DoorDash. See, they aren't just delivery apps. They're these enormous data-driven logistics machines. And AI, well, that's their secret weapon. So how does this whole thing even work? Well, the instant you hit order, a pretty sophisticated AI just springs into action. It's crunching data on live traffic. It's looking at the weather. It's checking which drivers are available, all while predicting how busy the next hour is going to be. It's like this incredibly complex digital ballet, and it's all designed for one simple thing: getting your food to you faster. And the result of all that crazy tech, DoorDash managed to cut its delivery times by a whopping 18%. Now, that's not just some number on a report. That's the real-world difference you feel when your dinner shows up hotter and a whole lot sooner. But okay, that's the big guys. What about the little guys? The mom-and-pop shops, the local restaurants that are really the heart of the whole industry. Can they get a piece of this AI action, or is this just a toy for the giants? If you're a small business owner, your day-to-day is a constant juggling act with tight budgets and staffing headaches. So for them, AI isn't some futuristic sci-fi idea. It's actually being positioned as a practical toolkit for solving these very real, very everyday problems. Let's just put it in really simple terms. On one side, you've got all the pressure, not enough cash, not enough people. And on the other side, you've got AI offering these direct solutions, automating the boring paperwork, handling customer questions instantly, and even helping you figure out what your customers want before they even know they want it. And here's the kicker, really. The numbers, they just don't lie. A typical small restaurant might spend, say, $1,800 a year on AI tools, but the median annual savings? A staggering $7,500. That is more than a 4-to-1 return on investment. It's not just accessible, it's an incredibly smart move. Okay, so we've seen the business case, from the huge chains down to the small shops. But what about the single most important person in this whole equation, the diner? What do we, the customers, actually think about AI creeping into our food experience? Well, it turns out the survey data shows a lot of us are pretty anxious about it. And the biggest fears aren't about a robot getting an order wrong. Nope. They're deeply human concerns. At 64%, the top worry is job loss. And that's followed right behind by a fear of losing that personal connection that makes dining out so special. And let's just zoom in on that number for a second. 64%. Nearly 2/3 of people are worried about what AI will do to human jobs. This isn't just some technical problem to solve. It is the single biggest emotional hurdle that the industry has to figure out. But here's where things get really interesting. When you ask people what they'd actually prefer, it's not like they want to go back to the dark ages with no tech. The most popular choice, at 44%, is a blend. A restaurant that uses AI to be efficient but keeps people around for the service. A fully automated experience? Yeah, almost nobody wants that. The verdict is pretty clear. People want a balance of high tech and high touch. All this concern from customers, it really points to a much deeper issue. As we start weaving AI into our food systems, we're not just ordering dinner anymore. We're also being served this whole menu of really complex ethical questions that we absolutely need to talk about. A really key concept here is something called algorithmic transparency. It sounds complicated, but the idea is simple. We should be able to understand why an AI makes the decisions that it does. I mean, if an algorithm is deciding who gets the fastest delivery or which restaurant gets promoted in the app, we need to know the logic behind it to make sure it's actually fair. And this really breaks down into 3 core ideas. Transparency, which means the system is basically an open book. Accountability, which means someone has to answer for what it does. And maybe most importantly, responsibility, which means at the end of the day, a human being, not the code, is in charge. This quote from the philosopher Kirsten Martin just nails it, I think. It argues that responsibility can't just evaporate into the code. If a system is designed to be a black box where nobody can be blamed for a mistake, well, then the blame just shifts right back to the person who designed that black box to begin with. So, where does all of this leave us? We're standing at this fascinating crossroads, trying to balance this incredible technological potential with our really fundamental human needs. So what's the ultimate takeaway here? I think the winning formula isn't a choice between technology and humanity. The restaurant of the future will probably use AI to handle all the boring, mundane stuff, which frees up people to provide the creativity, the warmth, and the service that technology honestly just can't replicate. And that leaves us with one final question to chew on. As you place your next order, just think about it. What's the most important ingredient? Is it the food itself, the speed of the delivery, the human connection, or is it that invisible algorithm that's tying it all together? The answer to that is really going to define the future of how we eat.